Hello everyone, this is MF217, and joining me are...
A very, very worn out hero of time.
Someone's been smashing too many pots.
And also joining me is...
Power, who is actually liking this game very much.
Which is the same game I'm playing, which is Quest 64. He's playing it on his end, I'm also playing it on mine, which is what's being recorded here.
Believe it or not, this game actually has different names for different languages.
Go for configure that.
Here we got gypped with it being called Quest 64. But in other languages, it got other game release names.
Such as...
Let me find it real quick.
And don't mind me, I'm just trying to head towards a specific area in the game, because I know it's gonna be a bit of a trip with that one once I get back in there.
Other names it got are L-Tail Monsters, even though the book that you're trying to get is called the L-Tail book. And Holy Magic Century.
Not sure what I think of those names, to be honest.
If you're in the EU, it's Holy Magic Century. If you're in Japan, it's L-Tail Monsters. And if you're here, it's Quest 64.
So we got a rather generic name as opposed to what the other ones got. So, well, then again, this would have been an actual series, but aside from 2 Game Boy Color games, one of which is basically an RPG retelling of this game in a more traditional JRPG sense.
You mean with an actual experience system that you can actually...
More traditional mechanics, more traditional RPG mechanics. But yeah, make no mistake, the RPG mechanics, despite what a lot of big-name YouTubers say, are indeed here in this game. You're wanting to say something, Corey?
When you were saying big-name YouTubers, that was like the cough, ProJared cough.
Basically, do you want to start in terms of the reason we're making this goddamn video?
Yeah, we're doing this because, well, ProJared is fucking wrong.
Let's just say that yet again, this playthrough is driven by revenge.
Well, the Banjo-Kazooie one wasn't really entirely driven by that. It was more so to be the first of its kind on my channel, and that it was a Nintendo 64 game and all that.
Fair enough.
So it was less so that and more just trying to get myself comfortable recording N64 games on my YouTube channel and all that.
Yeah, this one is primarily, well, secondarily driven by revenge.
Not even entirely against ProJared at that, because we have someone else, an elephant in the room, that kinda was being an absolute hypocrite regarding his own personal beliefs and yet how he views ProJared's review.
And yet he completely 100% disagrees with the Sonic Adventure 2 review and does not see him as one of the quote-unquote critics that I actually like.
So, care to explain the whole deal with him in the Sonic Adventure 2 review, or is there more to it, or...
Long story short, ProJared did not like Sonic Adventure 2, basically said that anyone who still likes it was blinded by nostalgia. And obviously, I think Liam disagrees with that.
Careful, ProJared, your DSP is showing, because, what do you think DSP was doing in his own goddamn unforsaken Let's Play of Sonic Adventure 2 that He was blatantly insulting anyone who loved the game as being nostalgia-blind idiots, and nothing more.
Basically, the whole thing was that we were, quote-unquote, remembering it wrong.
And then, with me, personally, with Quest 64, there's another ulterior motive as to why I decided to play it again after when I had first encountered it when I was a little kid at a video rental store of some kind. And I had it for a few days. I played the hell out of it, even though I didn't have a Memory Pak back then, for whatever unforsaken reason that was.
Couldn't afford it?
I don't know, actually. It was inconsistent across the entire household and the relatives who had the N64 as well. For some reason, the relatives had access to a Memory Pak, but we never really did anything in terms of seizing one for ourselves until very late in its lifespan. Well, more like late in its lifespan as in borderline the end of the GameCube era, more or less. Because that's when we got our old Nintendo... Actually, it was the early GameCube era. We got the Nintendo 64 working again and tried to replay a lot of the games, and believe it or not, we actually sidelined Melee in favor of N64 stuff. Like, everyone in the room basically sidelined Melee that was being played earlier. When I told them the miracle that the N64 that we had was running again, we decided to basically drop what we were doing and play the N64. Not sure what kind of caused that strong of a reaction, but, Like, Power, what do you think of the game's mechanics so far, in terms of how you're progressing?
I've likened it off-stream to the Dungeon Siege series, except for 3. We don't talk about 3.
Mind I ask what your explanation for that is, cause,
3 is the black sheep of the franchise, much like Sacred 3 was.
No, I mean how you're likening the stats to Dungeon Siege and all that.
Basically, in Dungeon Siege, you get not only 3 different stats to raise, but also 4 different skills. The skills are melee, range, combat magic, and nature magic, and the stats are strength, dexterity, and intelligence. The stats go up exactly the way that you think they do, and the skills go up by using their respective attacks and other spells.
And Quest 64 is actually surprisingly similar to that, although not as archaic as what ProJared made it out to be by any long shot. Like, what do you have to say about what I've already said on that, in case I word things a bit weirdly with my explanation?
Well, what's the weird explanation that you've given thus far?
Well, the stats kinda work how he summarized it, but not as strictly one-dimensional as how he cited it, basically.
Also, running around in town does not increase your agility.
It does, but for him it must have been a very slow process, or something happened to the controller while he was leaving it over 27 hours with a rubber band trick. Something must have happened to the controller and more or less made it so he only got up to 45 agility in the first major city that isn't the base one. And by comparison, I've only got a little under 6 hours of playtime and 52 agility further in the game so far.
You don't need 45 agility to beat Silverring, I'm sorry.
Like, Silverang, even if you just dump everything in the water, you're perfectly good at that. Because water skills turn out to be rather broken in their own right. To the point the earth element is only just one side of the coin in terms of how broken the spells can get.
I actually beat him with all wind attacks.
Yeah, and I was witnessing that. I was like, you're gonna die, dude, you're gonna die. And he won.
Dean's learned this lesson before. You don't fucking doubt me.
And thankfully, my water magic is all maxed out, so I can just warp out of here if I ever need to, and just be on my way after that. So...
Also, I got my fireball spell to level 3.
Nice. I'm beginning to train fire magic next after I've already maxed out my water magic. Mainly because I want the stronger staff upgrades that fire magic provides.
As for me, I have 16 in fire and water and 8 in earth and wind.
Going for the more balanced approach, I see.
I mean, all the elements are useful. Fuck what ProJared says about water and earth being the only two that you actually need.
Like,
you technically need all of them.
He's even wrong about the whole... whatever the barrier was for, magic barrier, was it, that he called it?
Yeah.
He's wrong about how that works, and that all enemies only use magic attacks, but there are some enemies that actually do use melee attacks. There are indeed enemies that use melee attacks, trust me. And the way he's making out the magic armor, the bee, is actually kind of a gross over-exaggeration of how useful it is. Especially, not only can buffs fizzle out and all that, aka miss, but buffs also have to be reapplied after a certain amount of turns, which don't tend to last very long, to say the least. Like, watch this with Power Staff on my end, just... you'll see exactly what I mean.
Do you have that spell too?
Yeah. I just said after I max out water, I trained fire.
Oh, you're doing 86, and...
I'm not sure if that's because it's running off the fire element or something else, but, keep in mind there is another version of the buff spell, which might even do even more than that. Yeah, people are saying, like, Brian is a completely inept mage in terms of how his magic works, when...
Fuck yourself.
No, he isn't. No, he isn't. And anyone who says his hair looks crazy because of that one little idiot hair sticking out, have you ever seen Yu-Gi-Oh's more infamous designer hairstyles, I like to call them? You know what I'm referring to, right?
Hell, have you seen JRPG hairstyles in general?
With Cloud's borderline Super Saiyan-esque hair he has, yeah.
Look, if you show the power, I will take you seriously no matter what you look like.
Especially considering, doesn't a few characters from other media we like tend to have a bit of a goofy appearance as well, and yet they can kick some serious ass in their own right?
Oh god, yes.
Like, admittedly, not not the biggest fan of Ruby as much as I used to be, but Yang has a bit of an idiot hair thing going for her. That perpetual bedhead, if anything. And she's more or less a very strong character, even with losing part of her arm and getting a prosthetic, and yeah. Although I am looking forward to Grim Eclipse Definitive Edition or whatever for the Switch that's coming out. I am looking forward to that because I actually did want to get Grim Eclipse ages ago, but could never find the funds to be able to get it. So that is something.
Switch cards are easy to come by, so if you get the monies.
I'm probably just going to download it because my girlfriend is, I believe she's getting me a bigger SDXC card for my Switch. That's what I told her that I would like to have. I'm hoping she goes through with that. Because here's a funny story. She is obsessed with me wanting to watch the movie The Meg, which is basically a very overdue adaptation of a book about Megalodon, the prehistoric shark, basically the giant-ass great white, as most media depict it as, basically still being alive, and other prehistoric animals still being alive as well from the deep ocean and all that. Because I remember one of the books had, like, either Tylosaurus or Mosasaurus appear, and, or Liopleurodon, I can't remember which. It was one of the more stock, prehistoric reptiles in that regard for the sea, so.
Hey, my mana's over 50.
Nice. At least you're doing better with HP and, mana than I am, even though I'm kind of confused how you're doing it faster than me when I'm, like, taking an absolute thrashing in the newer areas I'm in. And I'm using the healing spell a lot, make no mistake. Dude, that took a long while for you to walk up to me and just try and hit me and all that. But is there any other games you can really compare the stat leveling system to in that regard?
Contact.
What?
Contact.
I'm afraid I don't get what you're referring to here.
The DS game.
I never heard of it. Like, can you explain?
Oh, you never played that game on the DS?
No.
I used to be way into that game.
Like,
It's
what?
essentially what this game is for spellcasters.
Like, isn't this game also spellcasters, though?
Well, yeah, but it has a lot more stats to level up. Hell, some of them even go up the same way. Getting the shit out of you raises your defense and health. Hitting things increases your strength, which technically the fire element does if you want to raise that. And hell, just by walking around, you get your agility up. Which is
Although
a little bit like how this
it's mostly in
works.
battle in terms of how it works, as opposed to just being able to freely walk around and it'll go up every now and then. ProJared made a mistake in that it actually increases slowly in the towns and walking around in general, but increases more during battle. Now, if you're wondering why my speed stat in that case is not higher than ProJared's in that case, keep in mind, he allegedly did that rubber band trick for 27 hours, and I only have less than 6 hours into this game on the save file.
I got closer to 8, but I've had AFK time, so...
And you didn't pause the emulation or anything to basically get around that little bit. So, but yeah, everyone is also saying, like, where's the XP system? And I'm like, right here. This is your level up, traditional level up XP system here. The spirit stat goes up simply by defeating enemies. And there is an actual XP system in terms of how they function. And the further you go in the game, the more the enemies gradually give in terms of XP. Like, in order to progress, you ultimately have to, well, progress. And that if you stay in the older areas too long, then you're going to eventually begin leveling up very slowly because they're only given a certain amount of XP, even though there's no anti-grind or anything at all.
Yeah, I got 7 hours, 36 minutes in this.
So, what did you guys have to say to review overall, considering you were sort of in the same boat that ProJared was trying to speak in regards to leveling the elements, right?
Who, me?
Yeah, you were like saying leveling the elements is impossible, and you're trying to quote ProJared's review, but it's kind of funny to see how, due to my influence, you've kind of pulled a 180 on that.
Well, I said that he believes it's impossible, and he only focused on two spirits and put the rest in
basically
the
had to
fire.
explain how the actual system works, in order to more or less get the point across that there is an actual XP system and it is indeed possible. But yeah, in terms of games I really wanted to own and all that, even nowadays, I will admit, if I could actually get my N64 running, I would ask for this game and also try and hopefully get the memory card back from one of my relatives in terms of my own memory card I bought ages ago while I was still in, like, middle school or high school, I believe. Oh, mana just literally leveled up just as I tried to deposit screen to examine it, and it was at 100%. And now it registered and got to 47%, 47 right now.
I'm at 51.
What's your HP currently?
137. 138.
%72% for the next spirit level up.
67%.
I'm looking at all my other attributes here real quick. I just want to check them real quick. Like, due to me basically having full water mastery, I have perks that not even Power has in that regard. Considering, even without really any knowledge, I kinda already knew what to expect from the elements. Because I think when I rented the game, it actually did come with the manual, so I knew kind of what to do, I think. Like, either it came with the manual, or if someone else told me how the elements worked, or there was something in game that told me even. I can't remember exactly what the detail was, but when I was young and inexperienced at these sort of games, I more or less was told in advance, in some capacity or another, how the elements work and what all they do in favor of the character's ability to do anything in the game at all. Okay. So main reason everyone thinks the heal spell doesn't work as much as it should, there's a reason for that, which I believe Power figured out, but I sort of also figured out as well. It heals by percentage. There's no set amount of healing it does.
Although, well, there is a little bit of set amount of healing based on your water spirit, obviously, because your spirits do govern your spells.
But for the most part, aside from what little the actual element itself dictates, there is also the amount of HP you have in terms of max, in terms of how much it determines it heals. Be it rank 1 healing or rank 2 healing, you know?
So where in the fuck do I go for this?
It's kind of complicated. You're gonna have to look at the map in game on your start menu. Because this cave system is what you need to progress through in order to get to the next major town, from which is being troubled by the next of the enemies that has one of the orbs and all that. So I believe that's the case anyway. %92 spirit. Once I level up again, that's when I'm gonna warp out and then call it an episode for this.
Alrighty.
But yeah, everyone's saying the upgraded versions of the base spells are kinda pathetic. Kinda don't understand that larger versions of the base spells actually make it significantly easier to basically hit the enemy overall, especially if you have trouble with your agility and all that. So But yeah, I just leveled in Spirit, so I'm going to head into the inn and call it an episode
52
there.
mana.
Um, 47. Okay. So yeah, that has been Quest 64 for this little one-shot video we decided to do. Any other thoughts before we sign off?
Nothing really.
Power?
I can't wait to max all the elements and prove ProJared totally fucking wrong.
Same with me in that regard, and this has been MightyFan217, joined by Link and Power, and we'll see you next time.
Yeah, take care.